some teams find ways to lose, and that was what happened yesterday to Miami. You could just see it.
Yeah, the fact that one team had Aaron Rodgers.
Well, that's true, too. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
And that guy is just amazing. If you saw
Did
the
you
one
hear
play where
that they even
it,
faked out?
Oh,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I wasn't. I didn't mean. I thought you were coming to an end. Go ahead. Keep going.
The one play where extended the play. You know, we all talk about Mike McCarthy and, you know, what a great job he's done. But if you watch Green Bay play, so much of it is him just extending plays and keeping his eyes downfield. It becomes, you know, schoolyard football with him and Jordy Nelson. You know, the call play breaks down, and he's got such an ability. You know, a lot of quarterbacks have athleticism, but he make the play with his arm. He's not going to drop his head and run for 3 yards. So the minute he breaks containment, you almost hold your breath if you're a defensive coordinator because you know something bad is coming.
I'll tell you what was funny too. Did you notice the offensive linemen? Some people on Green Bay did not know what that final play was going to be. Weren't sure because obviously they're calling for them to spike the play there and get the ball spiked and end the clock there. But the offensive lineman, TJ Lang, his quote was funny. He's like, I kept hearing him say clock the ball, but I'm positive that there's a protection line call here somewhere, man. So they knew something was going on. But, yeah, that was interesting. I remember when Bernie Kosar pulled that off. That was one of his little specialty trick plays at the end of the game he used to like to pull off.
Yeah, and it was the most famous of those was from Dan Marino, obviously, with the Dolphins. So it was apropos that it was in Miami. But, you know, I can't believe, of all people, as I said, the one guy who understands has got to be Joe Philbin. He says, yeah, we got to go for the first down. And then if you don't get it, I'm fine. You know, at least you try. You know, the other team is trying to defend you, but you have to try. You can't just run straight up the middle on 3rd and 7, and especially against a player like that.
Brother, if Tennessee was afraid to give the ball back to Brian Hoyer, then you should have been afraid to give the ball back to Aaron Rodgers. That's all I'm saying. You should have at least went for it, because everybody gives them slack for why they didn't punt it there on that 4th down. And they're like, look, we're not giving the ball back to that offense. You can give it back to Aaron Rodgers and let that happen to you. Hey, like I said, some teams, and like you said, I say they find a way to lose, but it's easier when you're helped along by a guy like Aaron Rodgers too. So.
Obviously the strength of the Dolphins is their defense, and they had been playing well for most of the game. But again, you were his offensive coordinator.
Yep. Absolutely.
You know what he's capable of. It's just it looks so specifically, and you just got to take over there and to go win the game, not sit back and allow the best quarterback in the game to decide things. And, if it works out, I would still be saying the same thing. You don't give them that opportunity if at all possible.
You're listening to the Sports Fix. John McMullen, J-Rock here, talking about the week that was for the NFL and for the Browns. And week to week, like they say, any given Sunday. It wraps up tonight. Still one more before we even turn the attention. You've still got San Francisco and the Rams here tonight. Speaking of fantasy football, I wouldn't mind if Zach Stacy just had one of those, never heard of 60-point performances from a running back tonight, because I'm toast otherwise. But looking ahead to next week here, we brought up the Browns. They've got Jacksonville. Looking around the division, speaking of, one I didn't bring up was Baltimore and what they did. They went to town here this week, man. That Baltimore offense was humming.
Yeah, I think Joe Flacco could have set the record if he wanted to.
He went to town.
But I'm not sure what that says about the Ravens, to be honest, because that's how bad Tampa Bay is. And,
true.
I've been talking about it for years. I mean, they gave up 50-plus to the Falcons a couple weeks ago. So, if Lovie Smith hasn't figured out that Tampa 2 is outdated and antiquated in today's NFL, I don't know what to tell him, because it's like shooting fish in a barrel. And he saw it yesterday with Joe Flacco. I think if he wanted to, he could have thrown 8 touchdown passes. And it's not going to be that easy every week. Give the credit for the Ravens to take advantage of the situation. They deserve all the credit in the world. But, again, I'm not sure what that says about that team long term. I still think they're a significant contender, but I don't think they're nearly as good as they looked yesterday.
Hey, I told somebody yesterday, I said, I like the weapons Baltimore has on offense too, and maybe you could think that they may have slightly better ones than Cleveland, but looking at, like you brought up, that Atlanta game and what Baltimore did, I'm looking at the Browns playing Tampa. I'm going, man, Browns offense is going to put 40, maybe 50 on that Tampa defense if they play the way they have against these other teams. They're definitely giving up some big scoring games, and the Browns do have an offense that can put some points on the board anyway, so I wouldn't be surprised at all by that. That's part of that stretch here coming up for the Browns. Speaking of Baltimore and Atlanta, they play each other coming up this week. Looking around the AFC North, Cincinnati's got the Colts. Baltimore is at home against the Falcons, and then you've got the Browns on the road with Jacksonville here, and Pittsburgh they're at home with Houston, Monday Night Football a week from tonight. So around the division, they have a bunch of different challenges. But it's going to be interesting to see Atlanta, not the best road team like you brought up, and they've been struggling coming off of a big loss. Baltimore with a big win. Going to be interesting to see how that game goes and if Baltimore comes out and puts another strong offensive performance on the board against that Falcons defense.
Yeah, it's a good matchup for them this week. As you mentioned, Atlanta is not a very good road team, and Baltimore is a very good home team. So you expect the Ravens to kind of hold serve this week. Similarly, you expect Cleveland to be able to go down and beat the Jaguars, as we said. Might be the least talented team in all of football, Jacksonville. So you have to take advantage of that situation. But as we always said in the NFL, desperate teams, especially desperate teams at home, you never know when they're going to show up and play their best game. So this isn't like, Alabama playing Louisiana Tech. It is a professional football team, and anybody can jump up and bite you. But, you look at it objectively, and Cincinnati obviously has a tough matchup this week. And Pittsburgh, too, at home, because of Houston's defense, you kind of know Houston will probably at least keep that game close.
I'm looking at the slate as I'm doing this I'm pulling it up. I knew a couple of the divisional games, but I didn't know the whole slate. I'm looking at next week's slate of games, and I'm going, the streak of several good, potentially intriguing matchups here may be coming to an end for me this week. Because, man, you got a lot of, a lot of the matchups just seem to favor one team or the other, and you're missing some of those marquee ones. Obviously, the one that you do have, San Francisco, Denver, it's the spotlight game, and Peyton Manning perhaps in position. Boy, did the schedule makers put that one together in the right week. They knew what they were doing, but potentially going to set the touchdown record there in that primetime battle.
Yeah, you would expect them to do it, even if San Francisco plays a good game. That's just the nature, as we said. We thought it's an offensive-driven league, so you almost kind of expect 3 or 4 from Peyton Manning every week, and that's what you hope for, and you still maybe have a chance to win the game. It's if he gets to 5, maybe you're in trouble. But, San Francisco, it's a big game for him tonight for that particular reason, because of what's on the horizon.
Right.
So they kind of have to get it done against the Rams tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll look ahead, and then next week will be another one. As we're closing in on the I was joking last week, fantasy halfway point. We're closing in on the legitimate halfway point here of the season already. It's amazing how once it gets rolling, it's like proverbial ball rolling downhill. Next thing you know, you look up and you're like, wow, we're already getting halfway into this thing. We're past the third pole for most teams here this past weekend.
Yeah, and it's a lot nicer to be in the conversation as opposed to teams, as we mentioned, teams like Jacksonville and Oakland and,
Washington,
the Jets,
Tampa,
and
the Jets.
Washington.
Yeah, well, the Jets. That's
yeah.
How long does Rex? Do you think he lasts the season? Who's the first of these coaches you think to go before this season's over that are on the hot seat?
Well, Dennis Allen was already gone, but it doesn't. It doesn't make a lot of sense to change coaches during the season just because it doesn't accomplish much. You have to really be off the rails as far as an organization
like the Raiders.
To make a change mid-season. Yeah, exactly. The Raiders are, so I don't think anybody is going to make a change from this point forward during the season. But there's plenty of guys you look at and say, he doesn't have a shot. And Rex Ryan's one of them. I mean, to me, there's no doubt about it. This is his last season there. He kind of knows it. He kind of understands it. He's already said it because things aren't about to change, especially if he keeps playing Geno Smith. Joe Philbin, I think Mike Smith is in trouble in Atlanta. There's a number of guys that let's just say they should be on LinkedIn updating the resume.
Get on LinkedIn, you guys, because you may not be long for this whole current coaching position thing. And it's never good for Rex Ryan when I know this is a week old, but we didn't get to it last week. When your backup quarterback says, oh, well, I could have done a better job of preparing, but, I was kind of slacking off on the scout team, and then say, oh, well, surprise, I'm in the game. That doesn't exactly make the coaching staff look great to ownership and management when they're already struggling to keep their job.
Yeah, it reminds me of I'm aging myself, but it reminds me of an old Happy Days episode. If you remember that show,
I know Happy Days. Yeah,
Ralph Mouth was on the bench of a basketball game, and under his sweats he had his regular clothes on because he wasn't expecting to play. That kind of reminded me of Michael Vick. He just wanted to. He just wanted to pick up girls. He didn't want to play that week. But it just shows you that things are not going well with the Jets.
No.
And it starts from the top, and it kind of trickles down, and you see it all across the league. We already saw it once with Dennis Allen, and the fact that I think Dennis Allen finished his career in Oakland at 8-28. When things start going the wrong way, it's very difficult to stop them.
For sure. Speaking of, we can talk about this later. I think it's funny how some places, a lot of people that have issues, and I don't know where I don't care. He had a bad start last year. He's 3-3 this year, but I hear people getting on Mike Tomlin, and I'm like, come on, man. Brother's a good coach, man. I mean, even when they struggle, he still finds a way to get them back to 500 before the season's over with. I think Mike Tomlin's a good coach, but I don't know if you hear it, but I definitely hear some people squawking that they think that he may be losing his touch. I'm like, you're crazy, man. And they're 500. I mean, whatever. I mean,
well, the Steelers are not an organization used to mediocrity, and the fact that they've had back-to-back 8-8 seasons, and now it's looking like impossible. They've become sort of like the Dallas Cowboys of the AFC, just 8-8, 8-8, 8-8. So some people are saying, but the Steelers have proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that they believe in continuity, and they understand that. They let the defense get a little too old without, making moves to replace certain guys, and it's coming back to haunt them now, and now it's about developing guys, whether it's Ryan Shazier or Stephon Tuitt, and it's going to take a while. And they understand it, but they're about continuity. They realize better than any other team there's no use starting over. And they've proven it's worked. Look at the resume. It works. 3 coaches, and basically since Chuck Noll arrived, and way back in the whatever it was, the late '60s or early '70s, and 3 coaches, all of them have won Super Bowl championships, and there's a reason for that.
John McMullen, man, always. There's a reason that you're here every Monday because we get to do this fun football conversation. I know you get on a roll because you've got all your radio shows lined up here on Monday. So, boom, you get rolling early in the morning, and it's always a busy morning for you. Thank you so much for taking some time to talk to us. And, man, we're just getting to the heart of this season here. There's still a whole lot more story to be told.
All right, buddy. Thanks for having me.
You guys can check out my man John McMullen, not just every Monday here on the Sports Fix Live as we look back to each week and look ahead, but also, as I said, he's nationally syndicated. His articles are seen in newspapers around the country. He writes for the Sports Network, and he's here